was discovered in the Amazon River Basin, and it is a man-made soil that dates back to 450 BC. And one of the best websites or articles that I've read on Terra Preta soil is from Wikipedia, and I've got that pulled up, and I want to refer to it. But it's kind of interesting. The early European explorers, in fact the first one, Spanish explorer, was Francisco de Orellana, I think is how you pronounce his name. I probably butchered that. But he came and was going up and down the Amazon River and came back to Spain with reports of hundreds of thousands of people in cities all along the river. It wasn't until this last century that they figured out that he was right, because what they found was this Terra Preta soil. It's man-made soil, and it is 800% more productive than the surrounding jungle soil. Jungle soils are very nutrient poor. They're kind of sandy and loamy, and the nutrients just kind of drench through the soil. And that's one of the reasons they thought this early explorer was crazy, because the soils couldn't support that. Until recently they found these pockets. They're in plots of anywhere from 50 acres to 1,000 acres all along the Amazon River, and they have proven that there were large societies that these supported. This soil is about 6 to 7 feet deep, and it's got pottery shards in it, and that's how they know it's man-made. And the components of Terra Preta are charcoal, organic waste, and these pottery shards. And that was really something that was discovered in the last 100 years. So they've proven beyond a shadow of doubt that it was man-made, and since about 450 AD. So I wanted to explain a little bit about Terra Preta. And again, this Wikipedia site is pretty awesome to get more information, but I'm going to quote a couple of things from the website. And first of all, it's made from charcoal, and charcoal is made by taking a hardwood or any organic material, but mainly a hardwood, and burning it under low oxygen environments. In other words, they smother it and burn it, and that leaves a charcoal. And they mix this charcoal throughout the soil, and an amazing thing they've discovered about that is it's growing. And that's something that really fascinates me. The soil is growing, and they say about 1/4 of an inch a year, because for the last couple hundred years the locals have been harvesting it and selling it because it's so fertile. They'll dig up a patch of it, and they'll come back several years later, and it's grown back. And they haven't exactly figured out how it's growing. They think it's growing by sequestering more carbon from the air. That's one theory, and it's a pretty popular theory, but they're still studying that. But it absolutely is growing itself, which is fascinating. So it's 800% more productive than surrounding jungle soils, and it's growing itself. There's 3 components of the soil. There's the charcoal, which they say is about a 10%. It makes up about 10% of that soil in that area, and where the Terra Preta plots are. And of course it has the organic matter. Something that keeps coming up, organic matter is anything from the leftover meal to animal manure, and we're actually going to talk about manure in a minute, to bones. Bones keep coming up, and I think that's fascinating. And then they say that it also, a third component of the soil is it has much more microorganism activity than the surrounding jungle soil. So that's pretty neat. What I thought I'd talk about a little bit was charcoal, and the reason that the charcoal is benefiting the soil. And one of the interesting things about charcoal, and I'm going to reference some things out of a book called Charcoal Remedies, and it talks about the medicinal uses of charcoal, which I'm also fascinated with. But charcoal is an awesome filter. We've all heard of charcoal filters. It will filter out impurities, and it is used to filter out and absorb poison. If somebody ingests a poison, the doctors will use that, and it works because charcoal is very, very porous. It is more porous than any material known to man. And just to give you an example of that, I brought a little vial of charcoal here. There's actually a teaspoon of charcoal in this vial. And I'll show you all, that's what about a teaspoon of charcoal looks like, and that is activated powdered charcoal. So that teaspoon of charcoal, just for demonstration purposes, teaspoon. And it's very powdery and the wind blows it. In 1 teaspoon, if you were to open up the surface area of the little tiny particles in there, all the little capillaries and all the tubes and all the crevices on really on a nanoscale level, they're so tiny. If you were to open up those and lay them out flat, it would cover an entire football field right there in 1 teaspoon. That is how much surface area that charcoal has, and that's why it works so well. It attracts anything into those pores, whether it's a poison or whether it's an organic mineral or organic substance or a mineral. And so that's why the chunks of charcoal in the soil, and I've got a sample of some soil here, the chunks of charcoal are absorbing any nutrients that come close to it, any organic material, any fish bones, any organic waste that you might want to put in there. The normal jungle soil, that stuff just leaches down through the sand, so to speak. With the chunks of charcoal in there, they're actually sucking. It's attracted to the charcoal. There's a couple of forces going on with charcoal and all those little cavities, and one is just simple capillary action. We've all learned about capillary action. That's how plants grow. It sucks up water. One of the ways, through the capillary action through all the little tubes. That's going on with charcoal, but there's some other forces going on too, which we might remember from chemistry or biology. They're van der Waals forces. I don't know if you all remember that, but it's more of an electronic type force, and I hope I'm pronouncing van der Waals forces correctly, but it's actually more of an electrostatic force that sucks anything into those little capillaries. So that is one of the things that makes charcoal so nutrient, and it's absorbing all of the nutrients and it's holding them there for all of those microorganisms to feed on, whether it's bacteria, fungi, that are so beneficial to the plants, and that makes soil healthy, all the bacteria and fungi in there. And of course, using organic material is a lot healthier than using chemical fertilizers, and the reason is that it supports the microorganisms that they're feeding on. So the world, but it is most prominent along the Amazon River. I mean, they say that 10% of the area along the Amazon River has been converted to this soil over the last 2,500 years, and it's growing. 10% is equivalent to twice the size of Great Britain. It's been made and it's growing to support this. So let's.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Once your soil is ready, you can put that on top of other soil, so it'll.
That's the idea, that you can mix it with existing soil. Okay. You're going to be mixing the charcoal after it's charged with other good organic ingredients with your existing soil to come up with a very healthy soil. Is the idea. Very healthy.